Hi, I'm Steve Selling, founder of Fit Test, and I'm just going to give you a walk around of my web-based app, myfittest.com.au, which provides simple and reliable estimations of VO2 max or VO2 peak. And then separate to that, allows you to create individualized aerobic exercise sessions based on your client's own data. So first of all, just to give you a walk around, to log in, and I'm going to go to this first client who I've just called test client, and I'm going to start a new test. And I'm not going to worry, you don't need to type the name of the test here, so I'll leave that empty. Walk test uphill. And at this stage, you can use published protocols, and I've put a couple of them there, but I really don't like using them. And so what I much prefer to do is to devise my own protocol, and I'll give you, and some of my articles have given lots of information on that, and I'll briefly talk you through that now. So because I'm using my app clinically, I'm going, and this is, for example, a 65-year-old, I'm not specifying pathology here, but a fairly elderly gentleman here. It's really necessary at the beginning to put in the data in these top boxes at the starting with weight. So I'll just put in, I'm going to make up some data. So his weight, I'm just going to put in as 66, heart rate peak 140, just to make it up at this stage. And the heart rate rest, I'll just put in at 55. It doesn't matter at this stage whether he is on beta blockers or not on beta blockers or any other medications. It does not matter. That's one of the real strengths of this app. It's also something that confuses some of the users, but I can assure you that this app will work perfectly for people on beta blockers or not on beta blockers, where there are large differences between the heart rates during exercise. Now to establish that first speed using my method, I'm suggesting that 5 kilometers an hour, after titrating that speed up to 5 kilometers an hour, I found that to be equivalent to about 7 out of 20 on the Borg 6 to 20 point scale, which I won't show you here, but it can easily get it. So this is very, very light intensity, corresponding to 5 kilometers an hour and 0% gradient on the treadmill. So I'm going to use that speed as a constant speed all the way through. And I'm just copying and pasting all of these down here, just to get a few. That's probably enough, and I'll just delete. It's important to delete the unused rows, and then I'm going to use 2% gradient, and we're going to go all the way up to 12, and he couldn't get to 13, so we just went to, couldn't get to 14, we just went to 13 and stopped there. And now I'm going to put in some heart rates, just made up. These are a test client. And you don't need to put in perceived exertion, but let's just put in 15 out of 20 as his final perceived exertion, and 7 being the beginning. So then we're gradually sort of going up in perceived exertion from the first workload. So just to reiterate, I got that first workload, or the speed, if you like, which I've kept constant with my protocol, based on a very, very light intensity, not 6, which would be no intensity at all, but a very, very light intensity. So in that band of 7, 8, or 9 in the 6 to 20 point scale on Borg, or you could use the 0 to 10 scale and use a very similar method. Now, what I've done here with these with this test client is we have a heart rate peak of 140, and you'll notice I've just used the heart rate peak that the person actually got to on the exercise test. Now, whereas the age predicted heart rate peak is 163. Now, if I go back in here and make that 163, I just want to show you what happens there. we end up with a very large gap between the final workload, which corresponded to 15 out of 20 or hard level of exercise intensity, and this estimated VO2 peak. So we have a large gap here. Now, if you were wanting to prescribe high intensity exercise, that would leave you a very large gap between what he actually finished at with a submaximal test and where you're predicted. So you really don't know if this person is going to develop adverse signs or symptoms in this range where I'm pointing here between the final green dot and the red dot. So we really don't want to do that. So clinically, I'll show you what I do. Mostly I would just, clinically, I would just use the final heart rate. And so we end up with this green range of exercise intensities going up to the red dot, which corresponds very closely with that final green dot. And here we have a range of exercise intensities that we know is going to work for that individual. Okay. Sure, that red dot may be an underestimation of VO2 peak, but I'm not particularly concerned about that, because what I really want to do is show progress as someone gets fitter and fitter, this 65-year-old. Now, what will happen as they get fitter is that there will be two things that will happen. One is at 5 kilometers an hour, he will probably reach a much higher gradient on the treadmill and may end up at 20% gradient instead of 13. So the overall workload. So for example, if I want to do that now, just for an example, and make that 20. So we're going to have this big jump and we'll make that 160. And we need to make this 160 now. Well, we might need to go to actually 164. So he's able to tolerate a lot more exercise. Now, of course, what would happen in reality is a lot of these exercise heart rates would actually be lower. So I can actually do that now. I won't take up time now doing that and showing you that. But what we've now got is the VO2 max, the VO2 peak, sorry, has been estimated as much higher than it was before. So if I delete that row, we're back to where we were before. Okay, so it's very easy to show improvement without actually and using the final heart rate that you get. In fact, using the whole set of heart rates that you get. Now, that's what I do clinically. Now, if you're not working clinically, or if you're working with younger people who can clearly go to higher levels of exertion, that undoubtedly will give you quite a small gap between the red dot and the final green dot. So I'm sure with a little bit of practice, you'll easily be able to work around this. This is one of the nuances of my app. It's one of the real strengths of my app. It's one of the probably in the top 3 reasons why I wrote the app in the first place, is that none of the other apps have any control over what I've just shown you here at all. So I'm quite happy with that exercise test there. You'll notice also you get this linear correlation with these made up heart rates. And I'll just say on this, sure, you can see some green dots that are not quite on the line, but the linear correlation is 0.993. And I would say that in over 95% of the tests that I administer, and they've got a large number, many, many hundreds, the linear correlation being over 0.95 would be almost all of them, and very commonly more than 0.98. Now, the exceptions are the people with arrhythmias, cardiac arrhythmias. And the primary example of that is someone in permanent atrial fibrillation, where the heart rates will wander around a lot more than what I've shown you here. I've given articles on this, and you can certainly go and have a look at those articles. So I'm not going to spend time on that now. But just on the point of atrial fibrillation, the thing that always still surprises me, is that even in the setting of a significant arrhythmia, this app will work beautifully, even though the heart rates scatter around the green dot more than seen here. And the average and the heart rate trend as you increase exercise intensity goes up with someone with a significant arrhythmia, such as atrial fibrillation. So this all works. I'm going to generate a test report now. And we can now go and start a program, and I'll show you the reports later. So now I'm going to start a program, and we've got a lot of options here. So we could do a walk based on heart rate. I don't like prescribing exercise at all on heart rates, but I'll put it in there for those who do like to do that. I don't like to do that. It requires too much measurement accuracy on the part of the client. And I actually think it's not the best way to prescribe. You could prescribe based on speed and gradient, because we already know what the speed and gradients we're doing in the exercise test. But on this example, I'm going to program based on percent VO2 peak. You can also cross into other modes, such as a run mode or walk on the flat ground. That's walk on flat ground based on speed and gradient, or percent VO2 peak, or percent VO2 range. And you can also program on stepping and cycling with using a very similar method. So you've got a lot of options for programming here. This is one of my favorites based on percent VO2 peak, but you could also do VO2 range. If you do VO2 range, you must put in a heart rate rest. If you don't, you won't be able to do it. That's for heart rate range, sorry. For VO2 range, you don't need a heart rate rest, but for heart rate range, you do. Now I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to put in some intensities here. I'll just put in 50, 60, 70, 80, 85. I'm going to just show you how easy it is to do an interval training program here. I'm going to do 50, 85, 50, 85, 50, 85, and then count it back down. So we'll get some 60 and 50. And remember to delete the rows that you're not using. And I'm just going to make all of these 5. I'll just copy all these down now. I'm just going to use that speed that person's comfortable with. And for time, you can enter time as minutes and seconds. So let's just say 0.30, 30 seconds, 0.30. So we'll do some warm-ups at 30-second intervals up to there. And then we might make that 1 minute. And we'll make the rest intervals 0.30. So I can copy all those to the 50s. Just doing that now to save a bit of time. And then these can all be 30-second intervals as well. And this can be 1 minute. So we've got a 9-minute session there, interval training session. It looks like this. So we've got this step up to 85%, which we know is safe for this client. And then there are 3 intervals of 1 minute each at the 85%, and then an active recovery for 30 seconds at 50. Now, suppose we just wanted the person to have a passive recovery there. What we can do with those 50s is just delete that. And delete that. And delete those. And we end up with that sort of appearance there, where we've got the person just straddling the treadmill to get some breath back and then going back up. So you've got so much flexibility with this. I'll just put those back in though, because I quite like those. And so back to how we were. I quite like that. I'm going to save that program. And now I just want to show you what you can do to see programs. So you'll see here we've got a short program report or a long program report. For your client, they don't need to know all the various bits of data. They just need to know what to do. So we'll do a short program report for the client. And so that looks like this, which what you've just seen there. It shows the client details, followed by what test was used to program the client. So the test that was used was a walk test uphill, and the program was walk uphill based on percent VO2 peak. So it shows you what test was used to for this particular client, and you could have had it named there if you like, and then the program that was based on percent VO2 peak. So that's a very simple thing. It just shows the client what gradient they need to set the treadmill at, constant speed 5 all the way through, changing the gradient to get that extra work with those 85% VO2 peak, and the time intervals there, and then the total time elapsed here. So that's what you're looking at there. Okay. So then we can go back here and we can look at that same client, and if we just want the test report now, the long program report just gives you all the detail rather than just that simple detail. So now I'm going to go down and I'm going to look at this test that we've just done. We're going to view the test report. And we can now go to look at let's look at the long test report first. This might be more useful for you as the exercise professional. So that's showing the main data in the large blue type here, showing the walk test uphill was used. The minor data, the less important data, is shown in black underneath. You've got your tabulated data underneath that, and then you've got your two graphs that we looked at before. So you've got your linear green graph, which is heart rate versus estimated VO2 for each workload. And then you've got your age predictions here for where that person sits in according to their age group. Okay, and that's done for both males and females. Now, what I didn't say at the beginning is when you log on, you can set your profile to put your own logo in here where I'm pointing on the top left of all of your reports. So I've just got my logo in there, but you could substitute that logo for your own logo. So that's one thing you can do. If we go back here, we'll look at the short test report. And what I'm hearing from my subscribers is that this is very handy for people who are wanting to send their reports to, say, a referrer, such as a GP. And this is all you get here, just a single page with the details of the client at the top, the main blue data, which is your main exercise data, and the two graphs. And that's a very handy one-page report PDF that you can send to your referrers, for example. So if I just go back now to clients, and I'll just show you back there. So what we can do now is go back into our test client, and we could start a new test. And what I'll do, just to save time, I'm not going to go through all of these now, but you could do a cycle test. Again, make sure you enter your data here where I'm pointing at the top. You can adjust this data before you save. So you can do any adjustments here until you save. Remember to put in heart rate rest if you want a heart rate range estimation. You need heart rate peak and you need weight. Blue data is the important data. Then you can put in your cycle test data in watts, heart rate, and RPE, ratings of perceived exertion. So that's for cycle. Same idea, you can program as well. So now we can start a new, just showing you again some of the other test options, run test or walk test on the flat. Same idea at the top. And then here we've got speed and gradient. So this would be walking test on the flat if you were going outside and gradually increasing your walking speed, for example, or walking on a flat treadmill, but increasing your speed. Then this is ideal for increasing speeds here, such as going from very slow jogging to faster running. You're increasing the speed, and you can put the gradient in there as well. So it's the same idea. And then finally, step test. Now, step test has got a little bit more data you have to enter. This is my own customized step test, but based on the American College of Sports Medicine predictive algorithms, same algorithms that I've used throughout my app. You need to put in the top data there, weight, heart rate peak, heart rate rest, but also the person's height, this will come up with a recommended. So I'll just put in some dummy data now, for example, 144.55, and we'll just say the person's 180 centimeters. That recommends a step height of 22.5. You certainly do not need to use that. If you've got a step height of 25, you can use it. If you've got a step height of 20, you can use it. You do want to adjust the step height up for those people who are more able, who are fitter, probably younger than this gentleman. But for this gentleman here, 65-year-old, 25 centimetre step would probably be would certainly challenge him. And then again, you're just putting in the speed, steps per minute, heart rates and RPE. This is the step up and downs per minute. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So you can use this is my standard protocol, where the steps per minute are 12, 14, 16, up to 34. But I might even go to 36 and even up to 38. And you don't want to go much beyond that, because the person will be running, and then put in the heart rates there, the RPEs and so on, and you'll get the same graphs as we had before. So to summarize the testing and the programming, well, for the testing, I've got 4 options: cycle in watts, walk test uphill, which I took you through in detail, running test where you're starting off and jogging or even fast walking and gradually increasing your speed, and then maybe some gradient as well, or if you're using that for walking on flat ground, and then finally the step test. So that's really what I wanted to walk you around. I just wanted to show you here under my profile. Here's where you can add your logo here. In the size is 200 by 100 limit, and just put that in there, and all of your reports will have your logo. So that's really all I wanted to show you. Thanks for listening to this detailed video. I do want to show you one other thing, and that is that you can contact me directly using the email address info@myfittest.com.au. I will endeavour to answer your email as quickly as possible. And there are a number of my clients where I've given very personalised assistance to, particularly in that more nuanced area of heart rates. I've written a lot on it. You'll be able to find that in my articles. I've also created a YouTube channel. If you just search for my name, Steve Selig, S-E-L-I-G, if you search for me on YouTube, you will be able to find a number of YouTube videos that support the app. But I want to stay very close to my subscribers, and I look forward to being in contact with you. So the last thing I want to say is that my app, I've tried to keep the annual fee down to a very low level, so that the actual annual fee is not a barrier to people signing up for the app. I think $87 annually to get all of what I've just shown you is a very fair fee, and I hope you can use it. You can certainly have a free trial for 1 month in any case, so you can just see whether it's going to work for you just with that 1 month free trial. So that's all I really wanted to say to you now, and have a great day, and look forward to having contact with you down the track. Bye for now.